Good morning, my name's Douglas Cochran, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about some musical history. So if you have a couple of minutes to spare, I'll tell you the story about Harry Holstad. Harry, you may not remember, but in the 1930s he was one of the most renowned saxophone players in the world, and toured the United States primarily, but later started touring Europe, and eventually he fell in love with Europe and settled down in Paris, where he had a very successful career. But then, sadly, as he got older, he started having memory problems, and he couldn't remember how to finish some songs, and so it got worse and worse. And finally, one morning, he woke up and read a review of his previous night's engagement, in which this critic called him Harry Half Song, which just was the final straw for him. And he decided that he couldn't do this anymore, and he took his saxophone and he went up on the roof and stood up on the parapet and was going to leap off to his death. And there was a crowd of people started to gather in the street below to see who this crazy man was and whether he really was going to jump. And so Harry, who could never resist an audience, decided that he would play one last song to his adoring audience. And so he decided to play his very favorite song, the one that was practically his signature piece of his career. And it went sort of like this. It went well, the crowd recognized the song. They knew suddenly that this was indeed Harry that was playing, and they started to clap and cheer and encourage him on. And he felt like it was the very best he had ever played in his life, and he was really putting his whole heart and soul into it. And he went on. He went. But then it happened. He couldn't remember the break. He couldn't remember where the song went from this point. And he hesitated for a minute, and then he just started all over again. He played a little faster and not quite as sweetly, and the people started to chuckle and started to laugh, and he heard somebody say, "Yep, that's Harry Half Song, all right." And he just tried one more time. And he couldn't go on. He couldn't remember the break. And he threw his saxophone off the roof, and he leapt after it, and as he was falling, and he heard this ambulance with its lights and siren coming down the cobblestone street of Paris, and it sounded just like this.